Hello everyone, hello and welcome to Solid Ground. And look, if I might, nice to be back. It's been, about 3 or so weeks since I did my last relatively short Solid Ground from Marrakesh in Morocco, of all places. The system actually reminded me of that this morning, but can I say it is wonderful to be back here on Solid Ground and joining you all. For those who may be coming across this show for the first time, it's a live show. It's where we talk the cultural, social, political, ethical issues of the day from an unapologetically conservative and I think, philosophically and faith-based, solid ground, hence the name. It's a live show, as I say, so wherever you are, know that if you are on Family First Facebook page or its YouTube channel, your comments will come live to me here in the studio. Regulars will know what I'm about to say next, which is, of course, if you're on my Facebook page or Substack or LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever, welcome. Lovely to have you along. Do comment. They won't be able to come live to me in the studio, but I always look at them afterwards, and if I get time, reply. So as I say, it's a live show. I've got a series of topics I want to touch on today, but if you have thoughts or questions, and certainly comments on what we're discussing, please throw them into the chat, and I'll be able to see them, which is great. But as I say, lovely to be back here. I'll talk a little bit more about the trip on Thursday. I'm still wanting just to curate a few photos for you. And by the way, Solid Ground remains a current affairs show, as I say, on the political issues domestically and internationally, which are catching my and Family First's eyes. But I thought I would share a few impressions and thoughts from the trip. Not only the conferences in London, as I say, we travelled to Morocco, we went to Portugal, and actually ended up in upstate New York with 3 of Rachel's kids. So we've been away a long time, but it is nice to be back. Nice to be back in New Zealand, and nice to be back in the chair here in the Treehouse studio. And just very quickly, because I always like to say good morning and also prove to you guys, not the regulars, but newbies, about this comment system, as I say, YouTube and Facebook for Family First. But good morning, we got Mike there, Nigel, lovely to have you along, and quite chilly, I'm told, there in Te Awamutu. It's not too bad in Auckland today. I think it was about 8 degrees, and don't get me wrong, that's cool, but I must say it's not too bad. I might add this, after having 45-degree days in Morocco, it actually has been quite refreshing to come back to New Zealand. To Food Dogs Trucking, good morning to you. To Darren, lovely to have you along. Bernice, thank you very much. As I say, Thursday I hope to pull a few more photos together and show you guys a little bit of the trip, and again some quick impressions. Jackie, lovely to have you along. Rosie, good morning. Theodosian Walls, welcome along. Of course, the great Empress, Theodosia. I think I've got that right, I hope. So good. Lynette, gosh, minus 2.8 in Christchurch. That is chilly. John and Jackie, good morning. Simply Green is not at this point saying good morning, but resting in peace, the Anne Widdecombe. She was a UK former Member of Parliament. In fact, I'll touch on that a little bit later because I've written a Substack on it, but indeed, may she rest in peace. Pat, thank you. Lovely to it is lovely to be back. Robin, thank you. Fourth Adam telling me it's 8 degrees. That's warm. It is. It's not too bad. And Tamsin, lovely to have you along as well. And to everyone else I know who is commenting, I can't spend the entire show, as you know, saying good morning, but lovely to be back. Bob, of course, is away at the moment. If any of you were following Straight Talk, the panel discussion last night, obviously I was hosting that. Bob is in Washington, D.C. for a conference at the moment called SoConCon, the Social Conservative Conference. I must say, I love a good acronym. So he is away, so you won't be seeing Daybreak this week, but Bob is back next week. So we're sort of switching places. He's been covering for the last few weeks, and now I am as well. And good morning, Peter. Lovely to have you along. Guys, there's lots of news to share. I want to start on the positives, because as you know, there's always things we can discuss and challenge. But some good news coming out of Queensland in Australia. And it's to do with Jillian Spencer, Dr. Jillian Spencer. She is actually going to be at our forum in September, and I'll play a little video about that soon. But Jillian's had a very successful win because basically she was being forced out of her profession by Queensland health authorities because she was critical of transgender issues and what was happening to young children. She, like a number of medical professionals, is whistleblowing effectively around what is happening to children, particularly the use of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and ultimately mutilating surgery. So she's a trained psychiatrist, well respected, but because she was, as they would phrase it, gender critical or trans critical, raising questions around this medical misbehaviour, I would say, she basically lost her job. But in recent days, she's been reinstated. This is a huge win, not only for Jillian, but actually for the medical profession as a whole, and certainly for children. Obviously, as I say, a win for her. She's got her job and her livelihood back. We know, sadly, of a number of other doctors, Australia and elsewhere, who continue to be out of employment because of, again, trans activists, who, as I have often said before, very totalitarian, actually very masculine when you think about it, forcing their way in, and in this case, forcing people with a divergent view out. There's to be no discussion, no debate, you're just to be punished. But Jillian has won. She has her job back. It's good for the medical profession too, because actually, like anything scientific, which of course the trans issue is not, but any scientific issue, you're allowed to have different opinions. You're allowed to debate, discuss. And again, this is one of the reasons you can realise why the whole trans activist space is completely false. It never tolerates discussion. It always seeks to cancel, to belittle, to attack, and to do so quite aggressively. And you're seeing that actually here in New Zealand at the moment through the debate in the courts around puberty blockers. Pretty much all those who are supporting what I just see as child abuse are putting forward false arguments, non-scientific arguments, and also being quite aggressive, assertive, abusive. It's just, well, you get used to it. But you're going to hear more from Jillian. As I say, good for her, good for the medical profession, and ultimately good for kids and families, because now there will be a psychiatrist who has the gumption to actually say, this stuff isn't true, it's not false. You're not born, in the wrong body. You are beautiful the way you are, and actually we can sit down and work with you. So I think a big win. But as I say, she's coming along to the forum along with Dr. Andrew Amos. He's an adult psychologist, and I've just got a quick video preview of both of them for you.
I'm Dr. Jillian Spencer. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist from Brisbane, and I'm looking forward to coming to Forum on the Family in September in Auckland to speak about my experiences as a whistleblower, trying to raise concerns about gender interventions for children.
I'm Dr. Andrew Amos. I'm an adult psychiatrist, and I'm looking forward to coming to Auckland for the Forum on the Family, where I'll be describing my run-ins with my professional organisation for trying to stand up for truth and integrity in caring for kids with gender dysphoria.
So these are going to be two amazing speakers among others that we have at the forum. Again, they are both Australians who are standing up and speaking actually the truth. But even if, there's people listening here go, well, maybe it's a different perspective, they're allowed to have that. And I think that's really the important part here. These are two medical professionals, well respected, who have stood up and said, actually, we're not sure around all this gender affirming care, as they call it. This doesn't seem to be the right and appropriate thing for children. And they said they were punished for it. So they're going to talk about that. They're going to talk about their wins. I just think they're going to be great guests. We also have the likes, I'm just going to put this up, the likes of Sel Grover coming along. I've talked about Sel before, done the podcast with him. Martin Isles is coming back. We've got Leighton Smith. You'll all know Leighton Smith. He'll be interviewing Bob because this is our 20th year as Family First. And importantly as well, Ben Carson. Now, he's not going to be there in person. Dr. Ben Carson will be coming in live by audio-visual link, which will be still absolutely fantastic and excellent that he's agreed to be part of the show. A couple of questions coming through. One of them's a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I re-find it. Foo Dogs Trucking is asking me, how do they manage to get rid of Starmer? I would love to take credit for that. As some might know, I was actually in London. Excuse me. I was actually in London the day that he resigned. In fact, I was pretty much almost outside number 10, so I was able to do a short video. So I'm just going to take a glass of coffee. I said, we've got more of these mugs coming. We'll be selling them not for profit, but covering cost at the forum, which will be fantastic. Give me a moment. I think actually all the flying, because I've only got back about 3 days ago, or 2.5 days ago, I think all the flying is still affecting my throat. But no, I didn't have tongue-in-cheek anything to do with Starmer's decline. But I think the problem for him was not just policies. I mean, this is UK politics, guys, but Starmer's policies were usually quite wrong, bad, misinformed. He had multiple U-turns as well, which is never good for a Prime Minister. But also he was just so wooden and boring. But literally as we are speaking, the new guy, Andy Burnham, is taking over. And look, my impression of the man, he's much more charismatic. He's stepped out of number 10, no notes, just talking, extempore, as they would call it. No lectern. He's got a very natural communication style. But his politics are very much the same as Starmer's. Far more immigration, crackdown on free speech, that two-tier policing, which they talked about a lot in the UK. Burnham is no better. He's just a better communicator. And Liam is asking, if I've got this right, when will we know if they're going to ban fireworks or not? Good question. I don't know. I have no doubt the Parliament's looking at it again just about every year. There's a petition or a call, particularly around Guy Fawkes Day on November 5th, to ban fireworks. It's always, Liam, and to others who follow this, it's always a fraught debate, I must say. I've always found it quite fraught because on one hand you've got two goods, don't you? On one hand, I think fireworks are great fun, and particularly if you've got kids, you see the delight in their eyes. There's something. Well, we love fireworks, but on the other hand, we also know animals hate them. I mean, we had a beautiful little dog called Fleur, and when we had fireworks going off, even though we locked her up on the far end of the house and tried to make things okay, she was scared. And we know this is a problem as well. So it's quite fraught for those reasons. I don't know, though, if the Parliament will actually, excuse me, I don't know if the Parliament will actually address it before the election. And I say that because I think there's only, get this, guys, there's only 10 days left of this current Parliament. So really not that long to go. So I've got messages coming through on my WhatsApp for some reason. I thought I'd turned it off. More distractions. So as I say, there's only 10 days of the Parliament left. And then they're going to go into full campaign mode. So that will be fascinating. So anyway, as I say, good news on the Jillian front. Another piece of good news is this chap here, the Reverend Dr. Bernard Randall. In fact, I'm hoping to get him for a podcast. I've met him in London several times, and he was at ARC again. Long and short, about 7 years ago, he preached a sermon as a school chaplain around marriage and sexuality. And long and short, he preached the Christian view of marriage. It's between a man and a woman. He did so very respectfully, but unfortunately for him, he was reported effectively to a terrorist group. Sorry, that's not the right way to phrase it. He was reported to a group called Prevent. It's a government body that looks at terrorism. And so because of his views, he was sacked as an Anglican chaplain of a school because he happened to teach the Christian view on marriage. He was also pulled aside by the church, not allowed to act as an Anglican priest for what they call safeguarding issues. According to the Anglicans in the UK, or the leadership at least, talking about Christian marriage is a safety issue. You're allowed, of course, to talk about the rainbow communities and the ever-growing alphabet as much as you want, but as a Christian priest, as an Anglican priest, you're not allowed to talk about, as I say, Christian marriage. You're not allowed to talk about the Bible. So he lost his job, and he hasn't been able to be or act as an Anglican priest for 7 years. But finally, after a long battle, he's won. And that's the good news. I should have probably said that at the start. The great news is Bernard won. There's been a settlement with the Church of England, so that's the COFE that you can see there at the top. As well, he's won. Again, it's a free speech issue, as I often will talk into, but it's also freedom of religion. We are allowed to talk about our Christian beliefs. As he did, we do so respectfully. We do it with generosity. We do it with love, but we need to speak the truth. And I think that's always really fundamental. We're there to love truth. And it's really important because love, I would always argue, philosophically, is secondary to truth. You're not there to love things which are evil. And in fact, truth is what leads us to know love. To be slightly theological about it, the love of God comes because he's true. And so, look, it's really a great win. I'm delighted for Bernard. But 7 years of your life basically being called a terrorist because you talked about Christian marriage. I mean, it's beyond absurd when you think about it. But it's happening everywhere. In fact, I haven't got it up on the screen, but as I was getting ready this morning, I see in Scotland, a female teacher has been summarily sacked by her school because she answered a question of a student around abortion. She's a Catholic, and when she was asked by the student her view on abortion, she gave her view on abortion, not to change the mind of the student or students asking, but just to answer. And as I say, she was summarily sacked. The good news is that the Free Speech Union over there is now backing her. It's, again, beyond absurd. And I know I keep coming back to this word, but you have to be aware, as I'm sure you are, this totalitarian creep that's happening in the West. And we were talking about it at this ARC conference in London. It's that inability, or a growing inability in our societies, whether it's the UK, Australia, here in New Zealand, to speak truth, or at the very least to share your opinion. There are differences of opinions around questions like abortion, euthanasia, transgender issues, climate change, the Treaty of Waitangi. I could go on. There are differences of opinions, and they're allowed to be. But increasingly we are seeing not only the state, media, and other groups, the commentariat at large, shutting down those discussions. You're not allowed to have certain points of view. You are either called, like they are in the UK, a terrorist. You're seen as a safeguarding issue. Here in New Zealand, on some of these issues, you run into code of conduct issues, so on and so forth. Like Jillian and Andrew in Australia, you lose your jobs. It's just absolutely absurd. And it's striking to me, although not a surprise, the more important the issue, the harder the pressure comes down. So like that teacher in Scotland, simply stating her view on abortion in response to a question has seen her sacked. Of course, had she said she was pro-choice and happy about killing babies, she'd keep her job. This is the terrible hypocrisy and double standards that we're seeing in place. It's just nuts. As Fourth Adam is saying around this, what happened to diversity? Peter's got, I think, a good insight here if I'm reading it. It's a question of how to best govern a divided people who increasingly reject Jesus. Well, I think there's actually a major... excuse me. I think there is a major element of that. The more we move away from truth, as we move away from Christ, we need to create more rules and regulations and actually govern with a much more tight fist is what we're seeing. Melanie is... I'll just put that up and I'll take a swig of water now because I've run out of coffee. Yeah, Melanie's pointing out there's some changes to sick leave and holiday leave. I need to bring myself up to speed. There we go. The little frogs in my throat past the travel. Yeah, Melanie, I need to read up on that. I've come back and seen the headlines. I haven't actually delved deeply enough to know what's going on. I can see some, particularly the business community, are saying it's a good thing. I can see a lot on the union and the left side saying it's a bad thing and actually it's going to harm particularly the people in the most vulnerable employment areas, which makes me concerned. So I need to look into that, and if we get time actually on Thursday on Political Playback, I'll talk about it. So I can see lots of conversations going on here too around the fireworks, so I'll have to come back to that. In other news, I'm sure Bob has touched on this. JK Rowling's created a new firestorm, but a successful one, because Amnesty International in the UK published about a week ago basically a list of what they call anti-rights groups. And look, basically it reads like a woke dictionary. So basically every Christian organisation that Amnesty UK could identify was an anti-rights group, a hate group. But they also included a sexual assault centre. It's called Barriers Place, that JK Rowling either founded or is the key funder. And it's for women. Not men who think they're women, it's for women. But Amnesty International put this place, the Sexual Assault Centre, down as an anti-rights group. And the proverbial hit the fan when JK Rowling called this out. And what it's done is put enormous pressure rightly onto Amnesty International in the UK, but around the world. Because not only have the likes of JK Rowling stepped in, people like John Cleese, the Monty Python comedian, Graham Linehan, you'll know him from Father Ted, a whole number of very well-known people have stepped up and said, this is beyond ridiculous. And in fact, it's not just insulting, but it's quite insidious. So Amnesty International has pulled the report, apologised, but it's taking a big hit, and rightly so. As I point out, J.K. Rowling's centre that helps women is seen as anti-rights, as a hate group. As I say, just about every traditional Christian organisation, again, those who believe in traditional marriage, for example, is labelled a hate group. And I thought the kicker for me is in this anti-rights, it's not really a report, listing not one Muslim group, which I find quite ironic when you begin to think of the LGBTIQ plus area. Actually, I should note too, on top of that, lesbian and gay groups, so lesbian and gays who aren't embracing the trans ideology, were also labelled as hate groups. But as I say, no Muslim groups, not one. So really what this tells you is just how corrupt Amnesty International is. And I'm sad to say not just in the UK. If you look here in New Zealand, what it advocates for is a far cry from what Amnesty used to be, certainly when I was growing up. I think I'd put it this way. Amnesty International wouldn't know a human right if it hit them over the head. They've become an ideologically captured and actually quite a dangerous group. And so look, don't fund them. If you are still here and you are donating to Amnesty International, stop. Really, and if you don't know what to do with the money, give it to us here at Family First. And also you might recognise this person's face or her name. This is Päivi Räsänen. She is the Finnish MP that I've done a few podcasts with. Again, she was hauled through to the Supreme Court of Finland and found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity for quoting Romans 1, for quoting around the nature of marriage. And in recent days, she has been banned from flying through the United Kingdom because of her hate speech conviction, or her supposed hate speech conviction. So this is not a good thing. I feel actually quite sorry for Päivi, but this is the absurdity of what we're facing in modern Western society, where up is down, black is white, and so on and so forth, where people are not allowed to express their views, and we're seeing that full totalitarian hand of the state kick in. In this case, the UK stopping her from travelling through, right through to, of course, the Finnish authorities for prosecuting her for simply quoting the Bible. So absolutely nuts. But I'd have to say, I was seeing strong hints of this, not about Päivi, but when I was in the UK, both, I suppose, just, the week or so I was there through observation, but just conversations with different people, that two-tier policing that you may be hearing a lot about, very much present. But one of the key things, and I think it's really important to say here because it will impact New Zealand as well, it's not the individual police officers. You can think about, obviously, those who have made the decision around Päivi Räsänen, and we can think of that awful murder of Henry Novak, but it's the training that the police have been given. In fact, one of the other people we were listening to at the ARC conference is Catherine Barbelsing. She's the UK's toughest headmistress, talking about how young people in particular today have been indoctrinated. And I think why we need to talk about this is we need to understand how basically that the far left, the progressive radicals, trans activists and others have infiltrated right through our systems. Doesn't matter if it's the medical colleges, our educational institutes, universities, into professional associations, and now that they're in there, they're exercising their power. They're forcing out people who don't agree with them, and then they're using their positions to indoctrinate the young people, or as in the UK, to effectively indoctrinate the police. The police are going around writing 500-word essays on racism and white privilege, for example. They're being told to embrace critical race theory, like we say with that awful killing of Henry Novak, because he was white, and the other guy in this case was a Indian. The fact that the murderer was Indian became the critical point. He was innocent, whereas the white guy, stabbed, bleeding out on the ground, was guilty. I mean, this is critical race theory on display, and it's a major, major issue, guys. Anyway, could go on for ages, and as Simply Green saying, it's the Fabians. Look, a lot of it is, I won't go into depth, but yes is the short answer. Look, in sad news, moving to France, they've just passed they call it assisted dying, let's call it what it is, it's assisted suicide. France has passed a bill supposedly with safeguards. Look, you've heard me talk around euthanasia ad infinitum, if not to a point of boredom. There are never any safeguards around euthanasia. Once you allow assisted suicide, physician-assisted suicide, euthanasia, the floodgates just open. And you just need to look at New Zealand. The latest reports come out, it's gone up again. None of us should be surprised, but we should also be aware, because actually I'm debating Todd Stevenson in about 2 weeks' time. I should put some information up about that in Wellington. Todd Stevenson's an ACT MP. Not only are they happy that the number of people suiciding increasing, and look, I call it that. Let's see if YouTube now tries to edit this this video because I've used the S word. You can put the words assisted dying, physician-assisted, euthanasia around this, but it's a suicidal action at day's end. And it's increasing here in New Zealand. ACT is not worried about that. In fact, they want to expand it further. And look, fundamentally, and look, there'll be different ones on here who have a different view around euthanasia, physician-assisted suicide. But once you say that it's permissible, any safeguards, any guardrails, any supposed checks and balances are just arbitrary. And as I've argued before, there's always the next difficult case. And so, really, it's a problem. Sad to see that France has gone down this route. As I say, the pro-death advocates are making a big song and dance about all the safeguards, but it will be exactly the same in New Zealand. It will start and just grow and grow every year as more and more vulnerable people take this way out, sadly, I think, and you'll see constant pressure to remove those very guardrails which were put in at the start. So, yeah, and hey, look, the last thing I just wanted to touch on, it's a New Zealand one. I should probably keep to New Zealand a little bit. And I hope you can read this. It's probably quite small on my screen, but this is not so much about New Zealand First or about politics. This is about how our mainstream media frame stories. And so, as you know, New Zealand First had its conference on the weekend, but RNZ on its social media chose to, and I'll have to lean in to read it, but it says it at the top because it's very small on my screen. Hopefully you can see it better. Winston Peters made the announcement to nearly 400 delegates and another 100 or so supporters. Now look, why I thought this was quickly important to share is again how the media's chosen to frame it. Had this been the Labour Party or the Green Party, it would have said 1,000 people or 800 people. It would have gone for the biggest number possible. But the reporter and editorial team here at Radio New Zealand have made the very conscious and deliberate choice to start splitting the number of people attending in order to lower the number. As I say, had this been Labour Party or Green Conference, they would have done everything they can, RNZ that is, to inflate the number. Not only would they have included voting delegates, they would have included observers, they would have included the janitorial staff, the security staff, they'd have included numbers of people walking past the venue to inflate the number. But the opposite is true here around this New Zealand First conference. Radio New Zealand has made a deliberate choice to try and reduce the numbers by splitting them. And look, again, I just think it shows the state of media in New Zealand, worryingly. But again, I just pointed out, it's this mischief which continues to happen in our mainstream media around the way they frame things. So disappointing. Look, as I say, I better wrap up. there. Just a reminder, I didn't actually get to talk about Ad Widdecombe's murder. If you want to read my thoughts, she's the former UK MP bludgeoned to death. It looks like a far-left extremist. Again, there's probably no surprise to anyone there. The threat of the far left is large already and growing, but if you want to read more, it's on my Substack. As I said, Bob, if I can find it, Bob will probably not be doing regular Substacks at the moment that he's overseas, but make sure you keep an eye on his Mick blog there on Substack. Go and subscribe to it. Know too that Counterculture, it's not so much our new series now, but that's continuing with Samuel Bilton. And just a reminder that this week there'll only be Solid Ground because, again, Bob's away. And Political Playback will be happening on Thursday. It won't be Bob. I'm just lining up a guest. It seems a lot of people are away this week, but we will have another guest host. There is no shortage of topics. Oh, and speaking of topics, the latest podcast, you need to check these two amazing Australian women out, Elspeth McKellar and Lola Popola. They are part of a group called Birdflip. Birdflip is literally flipping the middle finger at the abortion industry. These are brave, ferocious young women who go out and advocate on the streets for the unborn. Their social media game is amazing. Look, check it out. Check out Family Matters. It is amazing. There's another one coming out this week with a guy called Gavin Ashenden. Fascinating as well. He's from the UK. But Elspeth and Lola from Birdflip in Australia, just two incredible women, and it was amazing to have them, I found, on the podcast, so please to share it with you. Guys, I'm going to get on with the day. Lovely to be back. Lovely to have Solid Ground up and running again. Lovely to have you all along. I look forward to engaging with the comments and questions, and I'll see you all again on Thursday morning.